Joining me on the other show today is Senator Ali Ndume. He's the senator representing Borno South Senatorial District. Good to have you join us this evening on the show.
Thank you, Suleiman, and good evening, viewers.
Yeah, well, we know we've lost some good time, but again, we are looking at the moment and what exactly a lot of people can have in terms of political and national readings. Now, let's start by looking at your state.
Borno State.
Borno State. Many, would have thought that so much news would have been coming out of Borno State better than what we're getting now. To start with, are you satisfied looking at what we have seen before and what is going on at the moment in terms of the fight against Boko Haram?
Well, this is a very difficult question because I look at it in two different ways. If you say you're satisfied, it means everything is back to normal. But we are happy that the government of the day is serious about taking on the insurgents. And let me say here authoritatively that the Boko Haram has been defeated. But that is not to say that Boko Haram has been eliminated. So you have pockets of black spots, particularly two dangerous ones that are still existing. And now Boko Haram is not resorting to conquering a local government or town or taking over a town, but they are concentrating on targeting on soft spots and especially suicide bombing. So for us in Borno State particularly and in Northeast in general, we are happy with what the security agencies or the forces on ground are doing, but of course it's not over yet. And so therefore, we expect them to do more so that it's going to be difficult for us to get back to where we were because so much damage has been done, estimated damage of over 9 billion. And that translates to over 2.7 trillion in Naira terms. So it's a very huge damage. But we thank God for where we are today.
When you talk about damage, one of the things, honestly, that comes to mind is that I don't think my viewer out there will forgive me if I don't bring this. And it has to do with some other issues that, were raised at that point in time. I still could remember vividly you were accused of sponsoring Boko Haram.
Yeah.
It's good to think that you have a smile on your face because we saw you submitted yourself, to the law when that accusation came out. How did you feel, to start with, when the news that Senator Ali Ndume was a big-time sponsor of Boko Haram?
Well, let me take you briefly as a kind of recap of what happened, because it has been history now. It's for over 6 years. It happened that I was very vocal, myself and late Senator Ahmed Zanna were the two senators from there, and we were with Bena Majiden, who was more experienced than us and playing safe. But the two of us were, because we are there with the people, we see what's going on.
And you were younger then?
Yeah, I was younger then, and it's my nature anyway to say the truth, even if it will cost me anything. And I was telling the government, but then unfortunately, even the top government, including the president then, were not looking at it as a problem to Nigeria. It's as a problem to a certain group of people or sect. Like it's a Borno State problem, or people that are involved are the ones that are being killed initially. And it's like a cancer. Then it started spreading. And when you are I have been saying that when you are diagnosed of cancer or a lump that you suspect does not react to medication, then it's better you remove that tumor than to allow it spread over your body. So the government was busy, instead of trying to find solution to it, they were looking for a scapegoat, and they thought they find somebody like me very convenient. I was really shocked. But thank God, if you are innocent, that innocency in you is going to be your strength. And I'm a strong believer in my religion. I have no regrets about saying that, even on the TV. I try to be a good Muslim. And I know I have said it several times, that who am I? Just an ordinary son of nobody that became somebody without really knowing anybody. So it's a test by God. I took it that way, went to court, for 6 years been in court. There was no single evidence that was provided or laid before the court.
What actually gave you that confidence? Because I see politicians, it's almost the in thing. A politician is accused and he keeps running, away from justice. But you came out then, I recall, and you said you were ready for the trial.
Yeah.
Why were you so confident?
Because I know I'm innocent. I'm innocent. You see, that allegation was a very serious and grievous one. And the government that planned for it and those individuals that were exposed. At one time, you remember, Suleiman, they were trying, the president formed a committee, and I was dragged into it as a member to, study the security challenges in the Northeast and provide recommendation. We went around and identified those issues and recommended to the government what need to be done in order to nip it by the bud. The government was not satisfied because it has a mindset, so to say. And therefore, as I said, they found me convenient target to be the scapegoat. But unfortunately, that didn't happen because there was nothing. In fact, the person that, Umar Sanda Kundaga, that was alleged to be the spokesman of the Boko Haram came out to deny him. And then secondly, they were, I think, targeting and monitoring him on the phone. They found out later on that he's mentally unstable, and his father came to them to say, this guy is mentally unstable, and these are the few youths that are claiming to be Boko Haram then in order to extort money from people. But the SSS then refused. And the sad thing about it all is that besides the mindset of the government to get a scapegoat, which they think I'm the appropriate one, since I'm running my mouth over the TV and criticizing the government on the way on the approach, they thought, okay, they have somebody that can link up. If not, I was accused of that serious crime. But the boy, I met him at the office of the SSS the first time in my life. The first time. And I remember, and I was honest to tell them that, yeah, I can remember this voice, but I've never seen him. And he called me on the phone once, and that was it. My phone was forensically examined.
So you had to go through all that?
Oh my God, it was terrible. And it's not even my own that worried me then. My children, I had children in school, I have relatives, and it was a very scary thing. Then Boko Haram was attacking, taking over, and even getting to the state headquarters, went and blew off the police headquarters, and then blew off Nyanya with so many casualties. So everybody was scared. And there you are with the sponsor.
But were you threatened? Because I recall then you came out to say there was an attempt on your life.
Yeah. I was about to be killed. They tried it several times. One, it was when I was going to Goza to settle the crisis that emanated from the issue of Boko Haram between the Christians and Muslims in my community. I was trying to go and settle them, and I went there, finished the meeting successfully, and I was trying to get to Goza when I was alerted that Boko Haram were attacking a village there. So we were thinking of whether to go back or not and stayed in Purka. Suddenly the Air Force came and fired at us. And I had a security clearance to move then from the army and the police. I had the army in front and the police at the back of my convoy. But I was the target. And it was a kind of precision shooting. But fortunately for me, and God has just spared my life, because I won't be there to narrate this story. They would have said, oh, he was going for a meeting with Boko Haram, and therefore we fired a shot.
You didn't think it was a mistake on the part of
no.
You recall that there was also a kind of mistake on the attack on Ran.
On Ran? Yeah, that was different. It was not. I can tell you that.
It was targeted.
It was targeted at me, because those that are in the command center confessed, because they all came around. I went to greet one of them when he was in detention. That's how God works. If you do it to somebody, God will, God says, if you are servant, if you believe in him, and somebody does something to you and you leave him, God will take it on that guy.
Have you forgiven those who accused you of
Yeah,
being
I have.
members?
No, since even Jonathan, forgiving them. It's a different thing what God will decide to do with them. But for me, I'm happy to be alive. I have 10 children. They would have been orphans by now. I'm happy to be alive, and I'm grateful to my people because they have never lost confidence in me. It's in my zone that you have Christians and Muslims at a certain significant ratio. I won election when I was going to court in 2015. My opponent could not get, the PDP opponent of mine could not get 15% of my votes. And as I told you, I'm a son of poor man. My father did not go to school. My mom was withdrawn from school. So basically, I'm one of those that basically depend on God and the people.
When we talk about the people and how vocal you've been in the National Assembly, I think Nigerians would also love to hear you speak about what transpired lately, and it has to do with your suspension in the National Assembly. You talked about you being very vocal, and that cost you a lot concerning how you were fingered wrongly, because now the courts have actually set the record straight. What went down between you and your colleagues?
Not my colleagues. I've said it several times.
Not your colleagues?
Yeah. What is going on in the Senate is virtually between me and the Senate President Saraki, and to some extent some few of his, But I have no problem with my colleagues. And it goes down on principles. My major disagreement that led to my removal as the Senate leader and my suspension were two things. One is the issue of confirmation of Magu as the chairman of EFCC. I stood by the right thing and truth. And instead, I'm one of those that I can stand with my conscience and ignore the crowd. I can stand with my conscience once I'm convinced that what I'm doing is right, and I see the whole bunch or crowd right, and I see the whole bunch or crowd on the other side. I will stand alone. And that was what happened. So the first issue was that of Magu. When Magu was to be confirmed, I found no reason why the Senate refused to. And for that, I stood by him for two reasons. Because he didn't do anything that would warrant his disqualification. And two, he's from my state. And three, I was the Senate leader then, and my responsibility is to stand for what my party, and that is the executive, the president, stands for. And that costed me the seat, but I can assure you that I'm okay since my conscience is clear. Then the other issue is the image of the National Assembly was about to be rubbished because of two fundamental things that came out then. The issue of the Senate President's importation of allegedly importing a Range Rover without custom clearance that led to the invitation of the Controller General of Customs to appear in uniform, and it was ridiculously getting to a certain embarrassing level. Then I brought it on the floor. And coincidentally then, the issue of Senator Dino Melaye's certificate came on. And I brought those matters, which is usual. We have, it has been done before without any, reprimandment or punishment to whoever brings it, because I just called the attention of the Senate then. It was Senate's decision, not my decision, to refer it to a committee of ethics and privileges. And it was to look at those issues. And I was surprised that the committee, and I always say it was not the decision of the committee, because my colleagues those on the committee are not outside. That are my colleagues that I know, and some of them I've worked with them for years.
Does that mean we don't, or rather the Senate doesn't go by through democracy?
No, it's not that.
Of numbers, because if you say...
No, it is not issue of numbers. Let me tell you the tricks that is happening there. The Senate, I repeatedly say, unfortunately, have been personalized, privatized, and, the leadership, especially under Saraki, have now rubbished the Senate, converted it like to his personal, as the way he's running, the way he run Kwara State or something like that.
No, these are very weighty.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying. So I told, it's not allegation. So that's why I say, look, let me give you my example of my suspension. The committee members,
When you say personalized,
yes,
privatized,
yes,
privatized is a word, perhaps if you can expatiate more, when you say he has privatized the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah, I still stand with that. When you say you privatize or personalize the Senate is supposed to be for senators. The Senate president, I repeatedly say, once you accept to be a Senate president, you lose most of your rights. And you preside. When you preside, you only hear your own when there is a tie. And you have to break the tie. I'm sure you know, in the democracy we are copying, and that's the American democracy, isn't it? That's the democracy we are trying to copy. The vice president is the Senate president. And he comes to the Senate only when there is a tie, to break the tie. Otherwise, the daily proceedings of the Senate in the Congress today is run by the person they call the Senate President pro tempore. Most of the business of the Senate is organized by the Senate leader. But you see, in the Nigerian case, or in the 8th Senate case, I was in the 7th Senate with David Mack. David Mack had no opinion, and he kept to that. And he called us his bosses. And that's true. We had the votes. If for whatever reason, or if we just decide that we have, two-thirds of us decide that we change the leadership, it should be done. But in this case, it's completely different.
Would it be right to say it looks like the PDP Senate president understood how democracy should go?
No. They are two different persons entirely.
But you just said
David Mack is a different person.
Senator Mack,
and I'm talking,
well.
Yeah, just like me. I'm different from David Mack and you. We have different characters and personality, So I don't think I'm being emotional about it, or that
because every time the National Assembly matters come up, I'm sure you follow trend. A while ago we had conversation. You're also there with your social media group team. Don't you feel worried? For instance, the case of come in uniform, don't come in uniform, when so many other important matters of national importance
are being trivialized.
For instance, the farmers' herdsmen clashes. One would have thought that the Senate should have been able to take a definite stand long before now.
That's why I said before that we got it wrong up initial. I said in one forum that instead of us to have the Senate president, we have senators president now. Instead of us to have Nigerian Senate, we're almost having senators Senate. And therefore, that constitutional responsibility being relegated to the background. And you find us discussing most of the time ourselves. And that's not why we're here. We are supposed to discuss the Nigerian problem or issues, not the senators, whether the CJ comes in uniform, whether a senator is being harassed or arrested. He's supposed to go to court and seek redress. And therefore, an issue, or when you close the whole Senate to go and see one senator in hospital. Well, as I said,
You know,
that's just unfortunate.
I'm sure Nigerians will be amazed that you have this thinking, which we have also seen some others espouse. Can you, or have you tried saying this before your colleagues?
Yeah, my colleagues know me, and I have few people that are like me. It's only that they are more cautious and careful.
Because your job should be about your constituents,
yeah,
about the people.
and that's what I try to do. And you see, and some people, because the Senate has been personalized, it's possible for individuals to compromise on certain things that they believe in or they would have taken on otherwise because of fear for being reprimanded or being denied of certain privileges that exist in the Senate, not as a right. You understand? So, and they always, even before, let me go back to the days in the 7th Senate. When I was airing my view of the way the government then was handling the issue of Boko Haram, one of my colleagues before I was arrested came to caution me, say, you can't be doing this alone. You can't change the government's direction, you know. This, your stand is dangerous. They can, rob you in. And that was what they did exactly. And I was even privileged to have security report restricted on what direction was being given to people, to the DSS personnel as to how to get me in or, rob me in, so to say. Otherwise, as I said, Marilyn Oga was on TV that a senator has been arrested as a sponsor of Boko Haram. While I was not interviewed, I was not confronted with any evidence. There was no investigation. By the time I was arriving at the SSS headquarters after, a meeting with Mr. President, I remember on November 21st night, 2011, it was already in the news. That
speak to us about. I'm not cutting you there. Speak to us about the activities of my profession, the media.
Oh my God!
When you say this happened, and you say nobody questioned you, are you saying? Because I mean,
the media.
I mean, before you came on this program, I called you up and we fixed this. Are you saying that no one reached out to you to hear your own side of the story?
Not at all. Until in fact, more than 30 days after I had been detained, and I was granted bail. But before then, let me even say that the media, during that time, convicted me before I was tried. The media convicted me before trial.
I mean, it's laughable. How did the media do that?
Yeah, when the government is saying that a senator is allegedly arrested and accused of sponsoring Boko Haram, you are supposed to reach out to the senator or to even run a common background check on that person. For example, the person that I cherish most and that is closest to me is my mother. After God is my mother. May her soul rest in peace. She died in 2011, even related to these issues. And she was a woman Christian leader. As I speak to you now, half of my...
Let's get something. Alhaji Ali Ndume.
Yeah.
From Borno South. Your mother...
Magdalene
was a Christian leader.
She was a Christian leader up to her death. And right now, my brothers, after me is Diana, she's with me. After Diana is David. After David is Martha. And after Martha is Naomi. Even those names rings to you. They're all Christian. And my stepfather is Yakubu. He's in Jos now. I brought them to Jos when Boko Haram, overran.
Why don't you people look at this, that all this that unites us in the National Assembly, discuss it from your small,
No,
family
I don't think
example.
I don't think we have religious issues in the National Assembly.
No, I'm talking about using the example from your home, for instance.
Yeah.
You have a close-knit family, irrespective of their differences in religious beliefs. But again, when it suits some politicians
To use religion
to use religion
to
very
divide
quickly,
people or to
they
cheat.
do that.
Yeah,
2019 is upcoming. We'll still talk about 2019 what was, before we wrap this up. But very quickly, I want us to speak to this. Now, you have raised a very important one because I did background checks on you a lot of times. If you're coming on my show, I do all of that. But I never knew your mother was a Christian.
So it means you didn't complete the.
I just completed it. If I didn't bring you here,
But,
I think I wouldn't have been able to finish
A
up.
typical Nigerian pressman will not even believe, despite the fact that I enumerated now. As I said, when this thing happened, I'm glad, you cannot generalize everything.
I don't want us to run away from that.
Yes.
Right? I'm not saying you're running away, but perhaps maybe you missed out. Let's go back to this. The issue of religion, which truly we try as much as possible to understand. Has it ever been one of the burning issues in the National Assembly, using family experiences and examples to see how we can find a lasting solution to it?
There are two things that a poor man, an average poor man, really believes in. When I have a system like ours, whether they have bad or good leadership, an average poor man believes in his leadership and also believes in God. Our people are very religious. So the politicians find it, or mischievous politicians, let me say, find it convenient to use religion to instigate people or to gain political mileage by talking or saying things to the people that are victim of criminality that has nothing to do with religion. And I give you an example of all these issues talking about herdsmen and the Fulanis. And then when the politicians want to define it, they will say, oh, it's between Muslims and Christians. At the beginning, you say it's crisis between herdsmen and Fulani. And let me tell you, there's Fulani, majority of them that are these pastoral Fulanis are not Muslims. These pastoral Fulanis are not Muslims. Go and check. And there are Fulanis that are Christians, especially in the Northwest. Many. Significant number. If you go to Zuru, if you go to Kano, if you go to Kaduna South, if you go to other, even Katsina, you find Christians. Like in my place, as I told you, in my local government, we have a significant number of Christians. And as I gave you an example, my mom is even a Christian. And in my constituency, I have a local government that is predominantly Christian. Chibok is predominantly Christian. 95% of people in Chibok are Christians. And in Uba Askira, majority, the Christians have the majority there. There are Christians in Biu, there are Christians in Howell. In Howell, the percentage is even, like 40, 60, 60, 40. Nobody can specifically. There is no local government in my zone, the 9 local governments that I have, where you don't have Christians. There's none. But, people try to take advantage of that, as I said. And what happened, what I'm looking at this, and when I try to analyze it, it's just like, okay, the previous administration under Jonathan was so lousy on the issue of security. And they got it wrong. They concentrated more on welfare, and even that welfare is like sharing the national resource among their favorite national resource among their favorite people, and then they ignore the issue of security, which is one of the major purposes of governance. And then they became very unpopular as a result of that.
Is it any better now?
Well, I can't say it is better. I'll try to live.
Because I mean, one would have wondered why your party seemed to be imploding with the emergence of the
Our,
reformed APC.
no. That is not. That is entirely has nothing to do with the issue of insecurity in the country.
They're not
Wait,
happy
let me
with so
tell you,
many other things.
it's just that some people, thought that they are in this government in order to reap the returns on their investment. I think that return on investment is not coming the way they want, and they feel that taking government from Buhari that is another matter that I'm surprised that people will come and gather together and say they want to take away power from a particular person, not a party. You understand? Did you think on that? So it means that they are scared of a person. And what does that person do? That person is firm on fight against corruption. That person is firm on doing things right. And we have come a long way. For 16 years, we are used to doing things wrong anyhow. To the extent that the leader or the president then will say corruption is not stealing. But now, we have a leader that is firm, that has integrity, that is serious and consistent on the war against corruption. And in this country, if you don't address the issue of corruption, you will never have enough to go around, because you have seen a circumstance where one person will not have a limit to what he wants to steal. If he sees money in this, or entrusted with people's money in this that is filled of the, in this house, he would want to take everything to himself, even knowing fully that he will not spend. Like, I was doing some little calculation. Somebody stole 2 billion something. If you divide this 2 billion in dollars, if you multiply it by 360 and divide it by the number of days that person is going to live, I discovered that he cannot spend the money even if he's going to live up to 85 or 90 years. Spending like 3 million naira every day. Go and do the calculation. I try to play with figures. So why would you go and steal that money? Because those persons' conscience is dead. They don't care about the people on the street. When they see people getting angry with us on the road and, abusing us, instead of you to say, why these people are insulting us, you will go and get police. So to the extent that now half of Nigerian police they are doing protection duties instead of working to go and fight the headsmen that are killing farmers on their.
You don't seem to think that the RAPC is
which one is RAPC?
A reformed APC okay. Is a formidable,
No.
group.
No, I don't think so. Every person matters. But that is not to say that person can bring down the system.
So when you say everybody is important,
yes.
Are you looking to reconciliation with these aggrieved ones?
Yeah, I'm in democracy, reconciliation is supposed to be the first thing. But it's more of like, say, give me this. If you don't give me this, I'll do that. Or, that was what was happening. And so the leadership felt, we cannot threaten people like that. And besides, there was nothing wrong as far as I'm concerned. I am part of the NPDP. I was in PDP on sabbatical leave on PDP for 4 years before I came back to, we formed the APC and I joined. Then I had this issue of marginalization and all that. It started from our emergence. I can say I'm the one that is supposed to be more aggrieved than anybody, because I was the Senate leader, and that Senate leader, under the pretext of reconciliation, was taken away from me and given to the other party, the other person that is said to be like the favorite of the government or the party. And I didn't leave. I'm here. And I'm supporting Mr. President, not because of what I will. See, that's the major concern. I think people joined this APC or formed APC with an expectation that is now not realistic.
Let me close on this.
Yeah.
Expectation. 2019, are we likely to see Senator Ali Ndume leave the Senate for something perhaps within his state? Would he be going for the governorship of Borno State?
No. I don't have that in my plans. But I always say it's God that guides his servant. I didn't want to be a senator. And let me confess on this TV that I try to do what I do, but I have never enjoyed being a senator. I prefer to be in the house where you have 360 people. If you leave your house, you come to the house, you'll be happy because you are among 360 people. But unfortunately, I found myself among 109 big people. I don't think I'm older than more than 9 people in that place. And I don't think I'm richer in any way than anybody in that place because they are big people. So when you bring somebody like me and that is, an extrovert and he talks too much, he says his mind, then sometimes I see myself as an odd person. But God has destined that I will be a Senate in the Senate. And my governor then, when Ali Sharif were fighting, he didn't want me to come to Senate. And I didn't want to come to Senate myself. But my people and God kept pushing, and I won.
Well, I think it's a fine place for us to leave it. Senator Ali Ndume, Senator representing Borno South Senatorial District. Many thanks for spending time with us on Political Stew, and we do hope that we'll have you back again in the days ahead.
Thank you very much.